Efficiently improving your parenting will actually make such a difference in your life and your child's life. My name's Jodie Thornton, and one of the things that I really struggle with in the gentle parenting space is this assumption that you're just never going to be really good at it. You know, people will say, it's just not that easy to always stay calm, and it's just not that easy to always do the right thing. You shouldn't expect that much of yourself. And I don't think that we should be holding ourselves to unrealistic expectations 100%. However, I also think that a lot of the reason why we're encouraged to accept a lower standard of parenting in ourselves is because we're not actually solving the problem. We're just behaving on the outside like we're gentle parenting. We're remembering the scripts. We're saying the thing we're supposed to say, when actually on the inside, we still feel like a traditional parent, and not that that's what we want, but just on the inside, we're getting frustrated at things that we know are not fair to be frustrated at our child for. We're getting irritated by things that really are not that big of a deal. We're missing out on the opportunities to do the bigger picture parenting, like helping your child really get to know who they are at a deeper level. Deepening their intimacy and sense of trust and safety in your relationship with your child. Finishing a cup of tea. Like, there's so many things that we can be doing with our time if we're not spending so much time really just like trying to hold the beach ball underwater rather than actually becoming a gentle parent on the inside. And I think that when we focus on efficiency, which is not a word you hear a lot when talking about parenting, am I right? It helps you to focus on actually getting to the goal, right? Not just saying, I have the intention of being a gentle parent and I do as much as I can, but actually transitioning the way you see your child, the way you experience interacting with your child, actually transitioning that so that you're gentle parenting from the inside out. The number one thing I think that is important with efficiency in gentle parenting is starting out with the skills rather than the triggers. So if you start out trying to resolve the triggers that you have, so either trying to withstand the trigger, which might look like deep breathing, counting to 10, thinking of the bigger picture, reminding yourself of the consequences of allowing your triggers to impact how you treat your child, all of these things are helping you to like withstand or grit your way through having triggers. That's one way. Another way is to go and get therapy for the triggers, which if that's what you're up to, absolutely go and do it. But often that takes time. It's not always a very quick process to resolve your triggers. For all of these things, if we focus on resolving the trigger first, what happens is the next time you get stuck with your child, so they are being defiant, they have big feelings that you are not able to help them to regulate from, wherever you're getting stuck, if you've healed the most common trigger that you have, then your nervous system will go looking for other triggers because it's like, this is important and it's not working. Why isn't it working? And then your nervous system goes looking for, oh, it must be because no matter what I do as a parent, I'm never going to be good enough because I picked up that idea that I'm not good enough as a child. So we resolve the not good enough trigger. You actually heal that. The next time your child has a tantrum that you cannot help them regulate from, your nervous system will go looking for, oh, that's because what I need doesn't matter. It's because my child is always going to dig their heels in and get what they want, and what I need doesn't matter. Right? You can see how no matter what, if you've healed the next trigger and the next trigger and the next trigger, like you're going to just keep cycling through them. So in my view, if we start first with the skills, can you actively and efficiently regulate your child when they are overwhelmed? Can you accurately and efficiently identify not only what your child is feeling, but what is the need underneath that's not being met that's causing that feeling? Can you actively and efficiently figure out a solution to the problem that you're having with your child that doesn't just work for them, it works for you as well? Do you know, if you know how to do all of those things, you can implement the practical skills that go with that, rather than remembering to validate the feelings, rather than remembering, what is the gentle parenting, like it's okay, what is it? It's okay to be angry, it's not okay to hit. that's not getting to what is the impulse that's driving your child to want to hit in the first place. What are they feeling, and what is the underlying need? What is the healthy way to get them what they were looking for out of the hitting that doesn't involve hurting somebody else, that actually works for everyone that's involved? When you know how to use those skills, then we move to the triggers. So the work that I do is not therapy, it's coaching, and communication skills, right? So I'm not going to help you in a therapeutic way. What I can do with your triggers is to help you to unpack. So in some cases, clients are comfortable to talk to me about the triggers that they have and where they were developed in their childhood. And sometimes even deep triggers, just by looking at them and looking at what was happening at the time and understanding the situation the way an adult sees the situation rather than how we saw that situation when we were a child, sometimes that's enough to let the trigger go. And you just never know. Sometimes it does happen. Sometimes what we need to do is recognize that what was happening when that trigger was created is not the same as what's happening with our child right now. And again, sometimes just disconnecting those two things is enough that the trigger doesn't happen anymore. Sometimes we need to have a strategy to prevent the trigger from coming up. So if your child, for example, your child getting upset at having to brush really knotty hair, well, we make sure that we are brushing it more frequently and maybe putting it in plaits, or, we're finding a way, and they sound like simplistic options, but I'm just trying to give an example. But we need to find a way to stop the triggering situation from happening in the first place so that you then don't end up in that situation. That's all we need to do, right? But having that active trigger management strategy will get you a lot more. What we don't want to spend our child's entire childhood withstanding and gritting our way through our triggers. We want to get to a place where your triggers do not come up regularly, and when they do, you know how to handle it with relatively low sweat. And then the third thing when we're looking for efficiency in improving your parenting is we want to expect consistent results. When I'm working with a client on their gentle parenting, we get a productive shift within 2 weeks. That does not mean the whole thing's sorted. You never know, sometimes we do get that lucky and it really does get resolved really quickly. But what we want to see is that within 2 weeks, we want to see some kind of improvement. If we're working on you learning how to help your child regulate in the moment, we want to, within 2 weeks, we want to figure out what are the things that help your child to regulate? What are the things that you say or do that make it harder for your child to regulate when they're overwhelmed? We want to see that those tantrums are getting shorter or less intense, or they're happening less frequently. We want to actually see a productive shift. That doesn't mean we get that shift at all costs. We're not going to invalidate your child's feelings. We're not going to tell your child that they shouldn't have the needs that they have. We're not going to tell you that you shouldn't have the feelings or the needs that you have. But what we are going to do is make sure that we're seeing progress. If we're not seeing progress within 2 weeks, something is off. Either we're working on something that's a little bit further ahead and we need to come back to basics a little, or maybe there's something about the situation that needs to be tweaked so it works specifically for your child or specifically for you. Another one that can happen is that if you've got a single parent who works full time and has 3 children, the amount of time that parent has to implement even just say, for example, holding space for big feelings, the amount of time that a parent has is very different to a parent who runs their own business, only works 20 hours a week, has a 2-parent household, and doesn't have any financial pressure. Very different scenario. So one of the ways that we can get inefficiency in our parenting is actually parenting improvement is actually when we're using a strategy that assumes a situation that we don't have, right? We want to make sure that the situation we're dealing with is the one that we actually have in reality, right? And so I think this is really important because I think ultimately I feel like there's a general sense in the parenting world these days where it's just yes, you'll spend your entire child's childhood, the entire time, you'll spend trying to be a good parent, trying to be a gentle parent, trying to not allow your own childhood to negatively impact your child. Now, those things don't have to stay. And there are always times where we can't actually focus on making changes in our parenting. That absolutely happens. And if that's where you're at, I want you to know it's never too late. We can get there when we get there. But if you actually have the chance right now to make a shift, I don't want you to be using strategies that are basically just really hard. It should, like I said, productive shift. You also want to see things get easier. Once you know what your child's primary needs are that come up the most frequently, once your child understands their emotions and can listen to their feelings when they're a whisper rather than waiting until they're overwhelmed, things get easier. There's more time. Then you have more time to be looking at some of the other things, like about deepening the trust in your relationship with your child, or finishing a cup of tea. Like there's all these things that can happen when we reduce how much time we spend. That's actually, like, it's better than traditional parenting, 100% better. But it's not actually getting to the root cause and addressing the root cause. And so I really just want to say, if you're at the space where you have the time to make a change in your parenting, jump on into Confident Connected Parenting. It's a course that I run where you get access to pre-recorded modules that take you through the steps to improve your skills, not your knowledge, not read another book, not know what should happen, but I can't do that in my reality. Is actually change the skill set that you have, the perspective that you have, so that when you're faced with a situation where you feel like it's hard to be a gentle parent, you're just going to unpack, why does it feel hard to me? What am I missing here? Is it a skill? Is it a trigger? What do we need to do, right? And there will be a time where you will be relying on the modules and coming along to the live calls and relying on my support to get you there. But if you stick with this course, there will come a time where you don't need any more support or guidance. You know, moment to moment, what is going on for my child here? How do I figure out what's going on for my child here? How do I figure out what's going on for me? And what decision are we going to make right here, right now? That's the part where I want you to get to, because I've got to tell you, I'm there now and I love it. It's a much more enjoyable way to parent, and I can see, it's not just that I know that my children will be okay when they're older, is that I can see them getting practice with the skills now. I can see them getting practice with recognizing their own emotions. I can see them getting practice with believing that their feelings are valid, no matter what anyone else said. You can see them getting practice to assertively speak up for themselves without being inconsiderate, developing their empathy for other people. All of these things, you don't have to wait until they're adults to see if the work that you did paid off. We can actually see it now. So if that sounds good to you, the link to join is jodithornton.com/confident connected parenting. And I would love to have you join and really get to the point where you are the parent you want to be. We don't always have to have a gap, right? You can actually get to a point where you are the parent you want to be. Thank you so much for watching, and please do reach out if you have any questions.